Welcome to our commercial advertising photography class. I'm glad you've joined us. Commercial advertising photography pays great attention to lighting. Different products shows their unique features through the shaping of light. But every type of light has its own characteristics and properties. In the 3 following lessons, I will explain the concepts of the intensity of light, features of light, and the size of light source. In this lesson, let's first learn about the intensity of light. Based on the intensity of light, there are strong light and weak light. Strong or weak light does not simply refer to a brighter or darker image. It's not about overexposing the image to call it strong light, or underexposing it to call it weak light. So what do we mean by strong and weak light in this context? To understand this, let's start with a fundamental concept: the aperture. The aperture is defined by a series of irregular numbers and is represented by the capital letter F or the lowercase letter f. Common aperture values include f4, 5.6, 8, 11, 16, 22, and so on. A larger aperture size means more light, while a smaller aperture means less light. However, there's another concept that can be confusing. We all know that as the f-stop number gets larger, the aperture size gets smaller. And as the f-stop number gets smaller, the aperture size gets larger. When the f-stop number is larger, the depth of field, which is the range of sharpness in the image, will be relatively greater. To simplify, during the daytime, when we see the sun, our pupils naturally contract, and during the nighttime, our pupils dilate. This is the most direct sensory experience when observing the brightness and darkness of light. In the studio, strong light and weak light directly relate, not only to the quality of light, but also to how the aperture changes. Therefore, the intensity of light, the size of the aperture, and the change of depth of field are closely connected. In other words, when we need a broad range of sharpness in the image, we need strong light. And when we want a strong contrast between sharpness and blurriness, we need weaker light to achieve it. As we discussed in the previous lessons, completing a photography project requires guidance from a script. To determine whether a scene should have strong or weak light, the key lies in observing the depth of field in the scene or its sharpness range. This helps to decide the appropriate aperture size. And then, based on the desired aperture size, we can conduct light metering and shooting. Now we will observe the depth of field in the image by using different aperture sizes. We will take shots using a large aperture f5.6 and a small aperture f22 for observation. To facilitate the process, I have arranged a vertical row of products with different materials. Each product will exhibit its unique visual effects under the influence of light, but our main purpose here is to observe the impact of aperture size on images. Let's first capture the images using the 5.6 aperture. Alright, now let's switch to the f22 aperture and see the results. Okay, let's zoom in and observe the image taken with 5.6 aperture. The focal point is the blue product in the middle, and the products on its left and right sides are blurred. This blurring effect is the result of shallow depth of field. The products on both sides of the central blue item start to appear blurry. This is the contrast between sharpness and blurriness we can achieve with the 5.6 aperture. Now let's take a look at the image taken with the f22 aperture. We also zoom in the image, and the focal point is still the blue bottle in the middle. Let's take a look at the left side of the image. The products on the left, like the black bottle, and the products on the right, like the white plastic bottle, and the red paper product, are all clear. Through this comparison, we can clearly notice the differences of the depth of field between the 5.6 and f22 aperture. Controlling the intensity of light in our composition is crucial for our future photography. For example, when photographing shoes with a white background, we often use strong light to enhance the image's sharpness, which is useful for precise cutouts. On the other hand, if we want to have certain scene, such as placing props next to the shoes, to create a sense of depth, without distracting from the product, we can use weak light to blur the surrounding props. These are the effects we can achieve by using strong or weak light. In summary, in this lesson, we have learned about the differences in light intensity and the fundamental distinction between strong and weak light, which is the change of depth of field with different aperture.